Hey, this is Plague Felipe with episode 2 of Behind the Spoke. It's just continuing my journey in lowriding and what I did and how I became a part of it and where it took me, right? So, so back to the very beginning, I joined this car club, but I did not know how to do anything. I didn't know how to paint. I didn't know how hydraulics. I didn't know interior or anything. But I said, you know what? I'm going to find me a niche. And what my niche was is that I was good with people. So I would go around and I would go to all these junkyards and buy all these parts. And at the time, these junkyards were pretty much untapped. So I just pretty much had full reign. And when it comes down to it, me and my friend Jose, we were talking one day, and I said, you know what I want to do? I want to open up a shop, a lowrider shop. And I was just like, this is something we're going to do. Now, mind you, at the time, once again, me and Jose were not working. We were hustling, and we were trying to figure out what we're going to do. So we opened up a shop. We got our first shop, and it was a one bay shop, and then it had another bay where we put parts and car parts and hydraulics and sunroofs and all this other stuff, right? So that's what we did. But in 2 months, we grew so fast that we decided that we needed to move out into a bigger shop. So me and Silent, we got the shop on Pennsylvania Avenue. And this is when Lay It Low was booming. I mean, it was big, big, big. And so we got the new shop, and the crazy thing about it was I was still trying to figure out what my niche was going to be in lowriding. And once again, I think I was talking to Spanky, and he was telling me about roofs. We started talking about roofs, and this is before, like I said, once again, the roof thing got really out of hand. It got really crazy. Nobody was really, they were doing them, but nobody was selling them and shipping them. So my thing was, my niche ended up being that I could go and I would find all these junkyards, and Jose would know where these cars were, and we'd find all these junkyards, and I should start cutting roofs out, cutting roofs out, cutting roofs out, cutting roofs out. Now I may not, I'm sure I wasn't the top guy, but I was one of the top guys that were actually cutting the roof out, boxing it up, shipping it to New York, Philadelphia, California, wherever it was, I was shipping them. And that's one of the things that became my niche, right? So now, just to put this in perspective, when we're talking about these roofs nowadays are going for maybe 25 to $3,500. So you figure I was adding it up and looking at my old account and everything. I sold maybe, let's say, 30 roofs. So you take, let's just do the math of 30 roofs, $1,000. That's quite a bit of money for some roofs. You know, and it came to the point where I was so much into it. I had my wife cutting out roofs. I had my friends cutting out roofs. Kenny. Uh, I even had my pastor from the church, Big Chris. I had him with me cutting the roof out. And it got to the point where I was cutting so many roofs out that when people would go to the yards, they was like, Felipe been here. And see, before this, the junkyard guys, they didn't want to let you cut the roofs out of the car. They were like, nah, man, what you gonna do with the roof? So I cut out these roofs and I started sending them everywhere. And you had to have the skin with the roof. So I was like, okay, this is a thing. And the crazy thing about it is, it worked out perfect for me because there was this place called the Packager. And the Packager shipped big things and big boxes. There's a place in Ogden, shipped it. So it worked out perfect for me. I was probably buying roofs, maybe the most, I think, $150. And I was selling them for, $700, $800, sometimes less because I felt the volume was more. I wasn't going to try to get rich off a whole bunch of, like, selling one roof at a time. I was trying to sell as many as I can instead of trying to get all the money off of one. And it was working. And next thing you know, I was known for the guy to sell roofs. There was a guy named Brett that was he's up in New York, somewhere. He was doing it. And then there was a guy I met named Jeremy. He was doing it. But once again, I had connections that was getting me these roofs. I remember getting a call from Vic Chips, and he was like, "Man, I know where there's 4 roofs at. You want to go get them?" Me and my wife, the next day, we shot out there and we got those roofs. We spent all day out there cutting roofs. It was so big that my mother-in-law had got me a generator, and I had a sawzall, and I would take that generator everywhere, and I was just cutting roofs, cutting roofs. And then it got to the point where if they weren't letting me cut the roof, I would just buy the car. So I remember me and my buddy Scott, we went down to, it's a place called John's. And John's at the time, he let me cut the roofs out the car. And if he didn't let me cut the roof out, he sold me the whole car for good deal. Those cars, the last 2 that I ever sold, full cars actually went up to Salt Lake somewhere, and the guy's actually doing them. But that brought me the introduction to Lincoln. I say I done cut maybe, like I said, like I done had my hands and cut physically anywhere from 35 to 30 to 40 on the low end. Let's just say that's the low end of roofs I cut. And all these roofs, they help go into Cadillacs, like you see behind me, Cutlasses, Regals, whatever, right? But there's also, when it comes to roofs, there's 3 kinds that you really are looking for, right? And they come out of a Lincoln Mark V and a Lincoln Town Car, right? Those are the roofs that we really want. There's the smoke roof, there's the mirror roof, and then there's the holy grail of roofs. That's the gold 44 roof. Me, myself, I've never, out of all those roofs I cut, I never cut a gold 44 roof. Never found one. I found many of gold 42s, but never gold 44. That is like the holy grail. If you found one, or if I sold you a roof, reply down in the comments and just let me know how that's going out for you. But I remember the gold 42 is just, man, it's just something about it. And if you see it in somebody's car, they spent some big money getting it in there. Where they find it, who knows? But that all I could find really was smoke and mirrors. Smoke and mirrors, moonroof. That's what I could find. And I did a couple T-tops and things like that, right? So I decided to open up this shop. And in the shop, I wanted to do a little bit of everything. But at the time, I just going on some old pictures on Lay It Low, I found a picture where I had 490 Cadillacs. 4 of them, complete. And when you start to think about it, you put, like I said, low riding takes a lot of money, parts, things like that. It takes a lot of heart and dedication to build these cars. So now, I mean, back then, I was buying 90s Cadillacs. I think the cheapest one I bought was for 500 bucks. From 500 to 3,500. Somewhere in between there, right? Nowadays, you can't even find these cars for less than 7, 8 grand. And it's just crazy. These cars are actually cars that we chop up and we use them for other cars, donors. You know, that's pretty much what we always considered them to be. So I had to shop and I'm sending parts everywhere, all over the United States. I got to connect with the packager. Everything's going good, right? So I need a hydraulic plug. So I start looking around for hydraulic companies and looking at them and all these different hydraulic companies that are out there. I mean, there's CCE, there was Showtime, there was Black Magic, there was Toppos, Reds, Masterpiece, Colorado. There was a lot of different companies, but one company definitely stood out to me, and it was from Utah, and it was called Solo Hydraulics. And so I reached out to Scott, and it's crazy because we got to be talking, and we became friends. And he became like a mentor to me in this whole hydraulic thing, and he gave me such a good deal. It made it impossible for me not to make money. And so Scott, the owner of Solo Hydraulics, cut me a deal. So I started carrying Solo Hydraulics. And the cool thing about it was Scott, Solo's not around anymore. But what Scott would do is he would actually let me pay him on the back end. So when he would do that, that made it even more better for me. So I was like, oh man, Scott, he's taking good care of me. Like I said, he was like a father, man. He was really good to me, really good to me, and he didn't have to be, but he really did. Maybe he saw something that I didn't see, but he was really good to me. So then I wanted to reach out, and I needed a wheel connect. So at the time, what's crazy about it was I was riding real Dayton's at the time, Dayton wheels, and that's what it was I was doing. And I got this connection from this guy named Oscar? Oscar from Galaxy Wire Wheels. And Galaxy Wire Wheels at the time was booming. It was big. Nobody was out here really doing the wheel game. It kind of faded in and out. But what I did was I had all the connections from different states and stuff, so I could get the wheels. So Oscar cut me a good deal. He cut me the deal that once again I could pay him on the back end. So I could get all the money up front, and then I just had to pay Oscar on the back end. To me, those deals were just, they were so valuable because I could make so much more money doing that. And with that, the shop grew. I think I counted one time in the backyard, and I just see some pictures. They're on lay it low. I couldn't figure out how to get them out, but I counted 19 cars in the backyard. 19 cars between me and Silent. It was crazy, right? So then I went to a rough patch. Like I said, I, I was doing too much, and family thing, I just messed up bad. So long story short, we shut down there. But then I met, I met two guys that helped me really just change the game and the way I look at things. And after my shop shut down, I was talking to my father-in-law one day, and we moved to the little house. And the little house, if you ever been there, because some guys have been there, but everybody hasn't been to the little house. The little house actually has an old gas station, right? That was a store, and they used to sell meats and candy and all this and that was part of the little house, right? So I had this store that used to be a gas station, and you know what I said I'm gonna do? I told my father-in-law, let's knock out the back wall. Let's, it sounds crazy, right? Let's knock out the back wall, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn that into the shop. So now, mind you, there's no rent there, and I started doing sunroofs. I was still shipping sunroofs, doing stuff. But then after I met Scott and Ray, we started doing hydraulics and doing other projects and things like that too. So I mean, that was a lot more money into it, and it was crazy how things were going. We had the wheels going. We had so the wheels. My wife says, "Why are you riding Dayton wire wheels when most people are riding China and they can't afford Dayton?" And I said, "You know what? Sounds crazy, but you're right. If I'm going to be selling a product, I need to be riding it, right?" So I sold my Dayton, and then that's when things really picked up with the wheel connection and selling wheels. Nowadays, you got guys out here in Ogden and Salt Lake. Like in Ogden, you got Big Chris. He's selling wheels like crazy, and the prices that they're giving these wheels, Big Chris is giving a good deal. Then in Salt Lake, you got Reyes who's selling Luxor wheels, and he's Luxor back used to be back in the day, but then they came back out, and Reyes has taken the wheel game to a whole nother level. way more than I could ever imagine of taking it. He has all different kinds and different things like that. I just had like, a setup of a display and some colors and this and that. These guys are moving product like crazy, right? So back to what I was doing was I became friends with a lot of people at the junkyard. And I made a lot of friends on the internet. And what they would do is they would come to me and they'd say, hey man, I know where these cars are. Let's go talk to the guy. So I would go talk to the people and these yards were pretty much untouched. And when I mean untouched, the roofs were there just for the taking. And I would negotiate deals with these guys and I would get these roofs. That was the goal, to get the roof, sell the roof, right? Get the T-top, whatever, sell the T-top, you know? And it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I call it the perfect storm because, I was making friends with these guys and connections in Colorado. I remember going down to my buddy Larry at the time and he called me and he said, man, I know where this guy's got a 90 Brougham and he wants $500 for it. So my wife had a thing with my son where, cause he was born early, so we went down there, right? But in the meantime, I was being greedy and addictive and I decided to go down there and me and Larry, we disassembled a Cadillac in one day and I packed it up. I got a U-Haul trailer and everything for it, right? Got it all packed up, started to head back. But before we hit back, guess what I gotta do? I gotta go to the junkyard. And I was on a streak and guess what was there? Another 90 Cadillac. Once again, I took the whole car apart, packed it up, and brought it back to Utah. And I just kept getting these cars and it was going really well, the shop. So my shop was called Utah Lowrider Connection, right? Here's the sign. I went in there and I said I needed a sign and I wanted this car on it. And the car at the time, the closest one I could find was Mel's car from Femme in it. So I took Mel's car, I put it on the sign, and this is what we were having. We had wire wheels, we had Euro caddies, we had hydraulic parts, we had installation, we had repair, we had convertibles, and this is about the time when VMAX came down here with Matt Smith and Jose, and they were doing convertible Impalas at the time. So once again, knowing the connections that we had, there was a guy named Bob, and Bob had cars that was an untapped market. I mean, pretty much these cars would sit there for forever, right? Because he had a weird time schedule. He opened at like 4 o'clock, and then he stayed open from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock. So most people just assumed that the place was closed, right? But not me. I went down there, became friends with them, and the sunroof game went open. Jose says he knows this guy in Preston where all these Impala parts are. So Jose wanted to get all the Impala parts. While he was doing that, he happened to notice that there was 4 or so Lincolns with sunroofs in them. How much better can that get for me, right? So I go see these Lincolns. Sunroofs are good. I'm cutting them all out. So that right there was four or five more eventually because he kept getting them over the years and I kept cutting them and he kept giving me such a good deal. I mean, if I was buying them for 150 and selling them for 800 shipped, I was still making money faster than trying to hold on to them and wait for people to come through with a lot more money. So the connections were really great, right? And it's crazy because the sunroof thing was a big thing to me, and I didn't know that I was moving this many until the packager was just like, "You here again? You here again? You here again?" And it just kept going and going and going and going. Nowadays, things are so expensive, and these cars are so hard to find. And one of my good friends told me, Felipe, don't sell any of this stuff. Don't sell any of this stuff because it's going to be worth some money. This friend did not sell anything. He sold me things over the years, but he told me don't sell this stuff. But me, I seen the quick dollar, and it still seemed like good money, so I did it, right? But I don't know if you know, but like car guys, when you find that that gold mine at the junkyard, I mean, it could be uh what could it be? It could be a booty kit, it could be a grill, it could be a Euro caddy. But once you find that holy grail, it's like a rush, and you got to keep trying to search for it. You got to keep trying to find it. You know, I remember my booty kit on my Cadillac. I paid what, $16 for it. $16 for it. Now, mind you, I had many a booty kit, right? Booty kits with Dayton's in them and all kinds of different kits. When I wasn't looking, I found one for $16. I didn't have no tools on me or nothing. I called my son-in-law and I had him come down and wait, buy the booty kit, and I went to the Harbor Freight and got some tools, and I got that booty kit for $16, and it's on my car. And the crazy thing about it was, it didn't have not one dent in it. It didn't need to be re-chromed. The chrome looked good. $16, and I was always running into deals like that with people, you know. And that's the crazy thing. I remember being in Colorado, and there's this Cadillac junkyard. I don't know what it was called, but it was a pretty cool junkyard. But it was one of those that we hate, right? Because it was one of those that we actually cannot go on. They have to pick the parts for you, right? But me and this guy, we became really good friends. We became really good friends, and I was explaining to him about the 92 door and what we do with these Cadillacs, and he said, "You can't do that." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Dude, I've been selling Cadillac parts for 50 years or 60 years or whatever it is, and you just can't do that. Me and my dad know you can't do that." And I says, "Look, we take the front off. It sounds crazy, right? To people that aren't in lowriding, it sounds crazy. We take the front off, we take the molding, we take the dash, we take the door handles, we take the bumper, we take rockers, we take everything, right?" And he's like, "You can't do that." So I drove my black Cadillac all the way down there, which was over an hour or so away. And I showed it to him, and he was just like, "This is crazy, man, that you can do that." So doing this now, he never used to let anybody on the back part of the yard to take their parts off. But me and him became friends, and he says to me, "Come in the back. I got something to show you. My Cadillac's down there." And I'm just like, "What do you got to show me?" I'm telling you, my eyes just like popped out of my head. There was 3 Fleetwood Broughams, 3 of them, 2-door, 80s models, had the rockers on them, had the door panels. They were all complete. 3 of them. Clean. No wrecks, no nothing. Complete. And then I look over, and guess what there is over there too? There's 90s Cadillacs. 90s Cadillacs, right? And this is at the time, I think I was at Nordstrom in Park in Colorado. And I couldn't believe my eyes. If anybody knows in lowriding the holy grails, and when you find them, you're gonna keep looking for those for the rest of your time, right? You're gonna be trying to find those to get that high again. I started talking to him, and guess what he said? He said, "What do you give me?" I said, "I want the three Fleetwoods complete. They had the interior, they had everything, but I was like, I wasn't trying to get the interior. I just needed the rockers. So 3 sets of rockers, door panels, wood grain, trim, complete cars, the 90s, and we made a deal. I even remember taking my uncle out there, which is crazy because my uncle don't even low ride, but I needed an extra set of hands to help me carry all the stuff that I was going to get. So I got the three rooms that was complete with all the trimmings, everything. Two doors, mind you. I don't think you guys know how hard it is to find one, let alone to find three sitting next to each other, complete. And the 90s, we got those, we got all the parts. And it's crazy. After I picked them dry, I never went back there again. And then, many years later, I tried to go back. I tried to go back. It was like maybe 15, 16 years. They built houses there. The junkyard was gone. But that didn't stop me because I knew these different yards and I had to go out. So one day, Vic was talking to me, and like I said, he told me about those roofs, and I needed some extra hands. Most of the time I did this stuff, if Jose wasn't available, I always needed extra hands, and my friends would always come through for me. But my wife was she was the main one that had to go out there with me to get these sunroofs. And I mean, if it was snowing and I went to the yard, we we went the next day to get that roof. I don't care what was going on. I would take off if I had a job. I'd take off from work. We were going to go get those roofs. And Vic, like I said, I think I told you this, but he told me where there was some roofs. We went out there the next day. There was like three or four of them. One was cracked, but the other three was good. So we snagged those, right? You can always use skins and different things like that, because in the moonroof game, that's what you're gonna need those parts. People were using to put them in. Everybody didn't have what was called a flange tool back then, you know. And like I said, nowadays, project cars or finding a car is damn near impossible. I'll be really quick. Finding a project car for a decent price it's just unheard of nowadays. It used to be that you could find different cars, and I mean, everybody has their dream car, but it's what can you afford? And you got to realize if you get an Impala, these parts are definitely not cheap. They're expensive. If you buy a Cadillac, these parts aren't cheap. They're expensive. And you got to know somebody or know where to get these parts from or know how to do it or it's going to cost you a lot of money. So to save yourself some money, you need to learn you need to find a car that's going to have lots of parts available. There's a lot of things that are affordable right now, and that's what we're going to talk about on the next video. I hope I didn't bore you guys, but maybe I helped educate a little bit too. So subscribe if you got a second, free. We're going to start working on this Cadillac behind me. I'm patterning it out. I'm painting it myself. And this is something that I learned, and this is something that I'm going to show. And once again, it's through paint connections and friends that all fall in that perfect storm. They're all here, located in Utah. I have a paint company here located in Utah, Limelight. I have my friend Mondo. I have Big Jesse. I have Big Goose. I have all these people to help me, which is crazy. It's such a blessing. Thanks again.